All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. And for some reason, my Rumble award seems to be... Oh, it fell down. Oops. Just noticed that in the background. How's it? Trump, are you trying to steal my bovite? Oh, that's a little bit of a problem. We've got all sorts of crazy news to cover today. First and foremost, we've got to get into political gaffes. Representative Jasmine Crockett suggests the United States needs illegal immigrants because we done pickin' cotton. She's trying to walk this back. It's not working very well. There's a censure move actually in Congress at the moment for this. It's it's probably the worst political gaffe of living history, and we've seen some other great examples throughout time. I'll get into some of those, by the way. We're going to do a little bit of political history today. China says J.D. Vance's comments about peasants are words that lack knowledge and respect. Effectively, he was insinuating, on his interview on Fox the other day, that Americans were buying products that were made by Chinese peasants. Is he fundamentally wrong? We shall explore more. Hint, he's not wrong. They just find it offensive. More offensive, by the way, than the idea of, telling illegals they need to pick de cotton and stuff like that. Whatever, it's inexplicable. Outstanding work, Doctor. How Jill Biden's lust for power saved America. I mostly agree with this particular article, by the way. It's from the Washington Free Beacon. It's about how basically Jill Biden was basically running the show because Joe Biden was incapable of doing so. And then inadvertently, and I do believe it might have been on purpose, but we'll assume inadvertently, got Trump reelected. Of course, this article is pro-Trump in tone, generally speaking. Trump assassination attempt suspect Ryan Ruth sought rocket launcher from Ukraine, according to documents. So apparently, he didn't want to use a rifle. He wanted to blow Trump up. This does not surprise me in the least. I'm just surprised that we're actually getting the goddamn documents, to tell the truth. We have some protest hyperbole. There were a handful of scattered protests throughout the weekend. And of course, liberal commentators like, well, this is giving us hope. Hashtag resist. The pink hats are coming back, and stupid stuff like that. But they're really, really hamming it up because these protests did absolutely nothing. The Day of Rage sort of thing didn't appear to really have any meaningful impact, policy-wise or otherwise. American academic faces years in jail after being charged with insulting the Thai monarchy. And then, of course, we're going to do a redux on the Colossal, is the name of the company, and some of their further efforts. Of course, we have now successfully de-extincted, for the first time, an animal, namely the dire wolf. I believe that they should be replicated, interbred potentially with other wolf species. That's perfectly fine. And that hopefully they find their enclave, their niche, and we can de-extinct other things as well. They're looking into the Tasmanian tiger. That would probably be easier than the dire wolf because you've got genetic samples from only a couple hundred years ago, fully preserved. It would be fairly easy to sequence that. Of course, you have to have some sort of species capable of gestating the animal. Otherwise, you have to use an artificial womb. But we'll get into that. And there are a few other species, the type of mammoths and so forth. Taz, says Doug. I have no clue what that refers to, my friend. Ah, Cultivated is here. Everyone is here. All of the core clankers. Flowers in her hair. The dragon fruit. Yeah, I looked into it too. Dragon fruit is good. It looks a little bit weird, though. It's like white with these big black seeds in it, sort of like chia seeds or something. And it tastes good, though. Yes, BL, the Dodo. We'll be mentioning that, too. First, let's get to the main news of the day. This is exactly why this channel exists. To cover other people's stupidity, mainly. And trust me, this particular commentary was unimaginably stupid. We will cover some other mentionable political gaffes throughout history, but we've got to draw a contrast. This is unimpeachably terrible, what was said by Jasmine Crockett. She literally suggested that illegal immigration was necessary because we ain't picking cotton no more. So basically, you're insinuating that illegal immigrants should go out into the fields and pick your cotton. Last I checked, the Industrial Revolution was some time ago. I believe that cotton farming is no longer generally done by hand. So I don't know even centrally what you're referring to. But the insinuation is so much more insane when you really think about it. It's basically like, hey, we black people, we used to pick your cotton back in the 1850s. We're not doing that anymore. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Modern farming does not require the hand picking of cotton. Illegal immigrants do migrant labor in the agricultural sector, but it has nothing to do with the cotton. That's all factorized. It's more like apples and leafy greens and shit like that. And you're literally admitting to the fact that you intend to exploit their labor, by the way. Oh yeah, we'll pay you $5 an hour to pick the cotton or whatever else you happen to be picking. Okay. Yeah, bring us your huddled masses and we'll put them in slavery, basically. You're effectively talking about indentured servitude more than anything else. Interesting. Yeah, that's quite a gaffe. We've got some other notable examples, but for the most part, most political gaffes, there's at least a reasoning behind it. I can't really find one for this one. For instance, Barack Obama, when he had to admit to a very sad public, well, I guess shovel-ready wasn't really shovel-ready. That was a gaffe. You shouldn't have said that. When Mitt Romney said he had binders full of women brought to him when he was governor of Massachusetts. Again, in the context, if you really look at what he's saying, well, yeah, I hired a bunch of females for my cabinet. And I'm not a misogynist. That's what he was insinuating, but that's not what the public heard, now was it? There was the time that President Taft broke down in tears on a live stage when he was debating Teddy Roosevelt. This was over a century ago. Because his former bestie basically said, you're a fat slob, you're not doing your job, and I fucking hate you. And Taft broke down in tears. You have so many examples. I mean, look at the Bush era. Basically every single day there was a Bushism. It was literally a meme. It was one of the first political memes on the internet was Bushisms. There's a reason for that. Even Donald Trump has had his moments. You have Biden's lockup at the debate. His deer in the headlights stare. Nancy Pelosi being incapable of physically rising from the ground that time that she was taking the knee for Black Pride or whatever it was, or Gay Pride. I can't remember which one it was. Or, Pride in general. But she couldn't even get back up. She had to be lifted back up by one of her aides. This is a gaffe. Schumer getting led around like a little poodle dog. Doesn't go over so well. You've got gaffes from virtually every politician. But most of the time, they're explainable. Pelosi can't get up. She's old. Taft broke down in tears. His former best friend is calling him a fat slob, basically. Bush. Well, there's no forgiveness for that. That was mostly method acting, by the way. Obama with shovel ready. An attempt was at least made at what seemed to be a sane public policy. It's just that it didn't pan out. Biden at the debate. Well, he can just claim, hey, I'm fucking demented, It's impossible for me to even follow a conversation at this point. With this one, you have someone, she can't claim dementia. She can't claim outright madness, although that might apply in this case, ultimately. Now she's facing a censure movement within Congress because she's insinuating that illegals are important because they'll pick the fucking cotton. I've never seen something quite like that. Again, there's a whole laundry list of political gaffes that have been made throughout time. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't really matter, male and female, old and young. But this one is effectively unforgivable. I can't imagine her recovering from this politically. I have a feeling that she's going to be out on her ass. Ruron sticks. Once again, the Never Trump rhinos are showing their cards with their insincere comments on the stock market. They're as bad as NIMBYists. Yeah, I saw if the stock market is down by even a point, all of a sudden all hell breaks loose and everyone's reporting on it. When it rejuvenates itself, when it recovers, it's not really newsworthy anymore now, is it? Pilgrim Media, picking the cotton was racist jab and white people. Yes, I know that it was a jab at white people. The idea is, well, white people are lazy, they don't want to pick their own crops, but we ain't doing it no mo's. Instead, you're going to import people illegally, brown people, supposedly part of that same BIPOC acronym that the Democrats are so fond of using at this point. They're going to pick the cotton. It won't be us black people. It'll be those brown people that speak, Spanish. Oh, there's no racism there. No, we're the ones that hate minorities. By wanting them to actually have a better life, we hate them. If you want them to be completely exploited, though, then that makes you like some sort of civil rights advocate. I felt a little bit dehydrated, actually. I've got some V8 as well. Cunning patriot sticks sails the stream with a mug in his grip. An independent rogue on a digital ship, dropping truth bombs like cannonballs mid-trip. Absolutely. Michael Cricklow, I like that, by the way. Do you believe the recent report about the CIA successfully locating the Ark of the Covenant using remote viewing and ESP by a psychic? No, I don't, and I already reported on that one. BW, did you see China up tariffs to 84%? Yes. Now, here's the interesting thing. China is inadvertently proving Trump's point. Supposedly, according to the East Blockers, China is all wise and all knowing. It's sort of like an 80s movie, like Gremlins or something. The old Chinese master and shit like that. The old Chinese sage. He will tell you the truth. And if you don't listen to him, then, hell breaks loose. It's basically the plot of every other 80s movie. Karate Kid, Gremlins, whatever it happens to be. They're inadvertently proving his point, though. If tariffs were bad and wrong, number one, why were they already there? And number two, why is your retaliation additional tariffs? It makes no sense. But that's what the liberals are going with. They're hoping that the public doesn't notice. In the end, there will be negotiations and China will fold. Nick C. Isn't it funny that Dems claimed for years that the stock market wasn't evidence of the economy doing well, but use the down to say the economy is bad? Yeah, I know. It's very, very interesting, isn't it? We're not the only people who appear to have noticed that. Pilgrim Media, men staring at goats. Where is the truth? Lol. Men staring at goats. I have no clue what that refers to either. Copium poppies. Rumble should add the ability to share memes in Rumble rants. That would be a good idea, yeah. Oscar Gonzalez, is Oriental word still okay to say? Yeah, you can say Oriental, it's just badly outdated at this point. Speaking of China, they're slamming J.D. Vance's comments about manufacturing, but he's fundamentally correct. The fact is that American people subsidize China and then buy their cheap shit. We've been doing this for literally decades. This was entirely the policy, by the way, imminently. In the initial sense, the idea was to try to draw China out of communism by improving their economy, getting them addicted to Coca-Cola, basically. This happened under Richard Nixon initially. And it worked. In the economic sense, it definitely improved China's economic stance. Although they were already industrializing, they had various economic problems. Now you've got the outgrowth of a middle class and so forth, and on that scale, it worked. The problem is the authoritarianism never went away. The aversion towards the Western Hemisphere never went away, because China sees itself as God Emperor, effectively. And as long as that remains the case, you still have an imperial system. People need to understand this. This is something people must understand. It's just like with Russia. Russia is still the Russian Empire. The only difference is that when they went through their Soviet phase, they changed economic systems. They did not stop being colonistic. They did not stop being imperial. They simply killed off the old imperials and replaced them with the Politburo. The same is true of China. China is still an imperial nation. They still are colonizing foreign nations. They're still engaging in authoritarianism, etc., etc. The only difference is that they have a facade economy overlapped over what is basically communism. They simply became communistic. They didn't give up their imperial desires. I mean, they invaded Tibet and so forth. That happened. They're still doing exactly the same thing they were doing before, only under a different system. That's the only difference. It's rather sad, actually. Last Beacon, please stop. Again, I don't want to have to mute you. I realize that you're a long-term subscriber and a very good clanker, but you gotta stop. You're clogging up chat, my dude. Copium poppies, genetically engineered designer pets need to be a thing. Mini orcas, great white sharks, pit bull-sized potbelly elephants, turkey-sized T-Rexes. The sky is the limit. I am not going to permaban Last Beacon. I will mute him if he continues, but I will not permaban him. I don't really believe in permabans for most reasons. I need some V8, by the way. Yeah. Nice and chilled, by the way. God, V8 is fucking delicious. I don't understand people that don't like V8. I got Jeremy addicted to it. Okay, Last Beacon, dude. I'm gonna mute you for 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I have no choice. But no, I won't permaban Last Beacon. I'm not gonna do that. I don't generally do that. Pilgrim Media, Sticks, your thoughts of the concept losing face. Concept of losing face? Oh, that happens all the time to people. No, Anaho, I'm not going to ban him. Let's get to our sponsors really quickly before we continue with the news. We've got some more interesting things to cover, of course. We have cultivated-mind.com. You can get mushroom pills. I take them every single day. Took my pills this morning. That's probably why I seem more peppy. The other day, I forgot to take it until I was doing the live stream. And so, unfortunately, I was a little bit more low energy than normal. BiltongUSA.com. Use code STICKS for 10% off, by the way. You can get Marmite. You can get Vegemite. You can get Bovrite. I recommend the Bovrite, by the way. You can use it in soup and shit. Also, delicious meats. We have Sticks, Hex, and Hammer mugs and tumblers and shirts available as well. Anton can set you up with all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, I didn't even know half of these things existed. I had never heard of Bovrite before. Now I've got 4 canisters of it. That'll last me a little while. In fact, I will eat some right now. Goes good with V8, I have noticed. And then finally, we have jamandbean.com. That is JAMNbean.com. You can get your Clank Blend coffee. You can get other sorts of coffee too, although the Clank Blend is definitely the best. Smooth, delicious. Also, lots and lots of tea available as well. I think they have other products also. Oh, well, you know, if you're dripping all over the place and... Yeah. The South Africans do it best. Bovrite is definitely the best of the 3. I have no problem with Marmite and Vegemite. They do have a good flavor. It's just that the Bovrite has this like beefy undertone to it, and you could easily use that as like a soup bouillon or something like that. You can't really do that with Vegemite and Marmite. I suppose you could probably add it to a soup or something. I don't know. Is there such a thing as Vegemite soup? I'm going to have to look that up later. Inland surfer. When it comes to Senator Crocker, never underestimate hysterical tribalism. She called wheelchair-bound Governor Abbott Hot Wheels. Yeah, see, I didn't find that offensive. I found that funny more than anything else. That's just a political, slap in the face, basically. But when she gets to the point where she's saying illegal immigrants are necessary, because who gonna pick that cotton? I mean, you're lapsing into ebonics, you're making a racial reference. I understand the intonation, black empowerment or whatever. I understand that, but you're insulting an entire category of people that you're claiming to defend. That's not a good look now, is it? Bovright and V8. It's a little bit of a high salt diet sometimes. My kidneys are functioning perfectly fine. Yeah, here's the thing. It's kind of funny because I'm sponsored by Jam and Bean, and they make mainly coffee and tea. But then Jeremy, who I've worked with, he has coffee brand coffee. And I have had it before, and it is very good. So I'm not going to knock his coffee brand. But I have loyalty to my sponsorship coffee. And we have the Clank blend, so I'm promoting that. I'm going to accidentally put a ball in my balls. That would be bad. Sticks BP 150 and 90. It's me, Carl. His coffee isn't good. No, I do like coffee brand coffee. I actually do like it. I've got some of that. I've had Black Rifle. That's good. But I'm going to stick with Jam and Bean because, number one, they're paying me and giving me free coffee. And number two, this is the best coffee blend that I've ever had, actually. Oh, the smell is goddamn incredible. Yeah, I got like, I think 2 bags left of that. And this one I keep here to do sniffy thing, mainly, and to show it off. Ooh, King of Biltong. We'll be sending you some red tea. Carmen Relax for sleep, and Carmen Energize for some get up and go. All natural South African red tea. All will be sent today. I'm very excited about that. Anything that helps me sleep. Yeah, I'll mix it with some chamomile, I suppose. Podunkist. Coffee isn't that expensive. Lol. Under Bidenomics, it's getting more expensive, unfortunately. But I'll stick with my Clank blend generally. Outstanding work, Doctor. How Jill Biden's lust for power saved America. Now, we have effectively had 3 female presidents in the United States, none of which were ever elected. The first was under Wilson. He suffered a massive stroke and was effectively incapacitated, and all of a sudden his signature looked a lot like his wife's signature, and she wouldn't let anyone actually go into the room when he was going over the paperwork. That's because she was the one that was signing them. Razorfist, by the way, I believe has pointed this out. I didn't know that until I saw his video on the topic, and then I looked it up. It's actually true. So technically speaking, Woodrow Wilson's wife was the first female president. Then you have Nancy Reagan. By all accounts, towards the second half of his second term, Ronald Reagan was not fully with it. I can't find the video anymore. I think it was taken down. But I had seen a video of his last public appearance. And this wasn't terribly long after his presidency, by the way. He was all messed up. He didn't know where he was. He probably didn't even know his goddamn own name. I remember that one video where he went skydiving. This was after his presidency, and not only a few years before he died. And he's coming down in the parachute, and Nancy Reagan's like running to grab him and stuff like that. That was pretty funny. It was also kind of sweet. Like, Reagan seems to have been very interpersonal. I've mentioned the fact that the Secret Service agents, because they liked him so much, he loved to clean his pool. And so because he had been a lifeguard and shit, so he was interested in pools. And he would clean out the leaves, and they would throw them back in as soon as his back was turned. And because he was demented, he thought, ah, shit, I gotta clean the leaves, because he didn't realize what was going on. And so they did this sort of as a labor of love. And then you have the third female president. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden, at least in the last 2 years of his term, maybe not when he first got into office, but at least in the last 2 years, quite clearly demented. He suffers from dementia. His cognitive decline is fairly impairing. And so what's happened is he had a situation where I have a feeling that Jill Biden, and she stands by her man. This is a sort of woman you should marry, by the way. She stood by her man. She crushed Kamala Harris. She completely defended Biden against, an probably at points an adversarial cabinet, and made sure that number one, he stayed in power, and number two, that the person that she hated the most didn't get into power. She threw Kamala Harris, I believe, intentionally under the bus. I believe that was on purpose. Now, some people say it's inadvertent. Well, she accidentally helped Trump to get reelected, and so, ha ha ha. No, I think that it was on purpose. I don't think she wanted Kamala Harris elected. I think that she fucking hates Kamala Harris. Did you see that, the first time that they were physically in contact, apparently, since Biden left the White House, Jill Biden wouldn't even goddamn look at her. And you could tell that they were uncomfortable around one another. Well, I guess Jill Biden kind of saved our democracy. That's extremely interesting to me, by the way. Last speaking of coffee, I got me some peppermint mocha K-cups on the way from Amazon. Sounds good, actually. I know how you feel about Keurig machines, but I feel more comfortable using them than standard coffee makers. I like a French press, actually, myself. K-cups definitely do have advantages, though. The convenience level is higher. It's just there's a lot of plastic waste that goes into them. Now, I like a French press. You can get a good French roast and, you put it in, get it piping hot. I had a French press for a while, but unfortunately, I was, I was elsewhere, and it hadn't gotten cleaned out, so it got kind of mungy. And I was like, well, fuck this shit, basically. I just use regular drip. Barack Obama. I like a nice French kiss on my penis. There are refillable K-cups, apparently. I am interested in this now. I might have to get a Keurig, I suppose. But I think Jam and Bean does produce certain K-cups, yeah. I didn't know that they were refillable, though. Huh. Well, you learn something every day. Ryan Ruth, the Trump assassin attempter, apparently attempted to buy a rocket launcher from Ukraine on the dark web. Ryan Ruth allegedly planned to kill President Donald Trump at his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. Well, he did attempt to kill him, so yeah, there's that. And this is the golf case, actually. Trump was out golfing at the Mar-a-Lago, and Secret Service had to tackle this dude. Apparently, he tried to buy a rocket launcher. I think that would have done a little bit more damage than the gun he intended to use. Thankfully, he was unsuccessful in his endeavor to afford a rocket launcher. Ruth told his associate to send me an RPG, rocket-propelled grenade, or Stinger, and I will see what we can do. Trump is not good for Ukraine, according to court documents obtained by Fox News. The pair discussed Ruth's purchase options, with Ruth inquiring if his associate could ship it to me, before explaining his intent for the military-grade weapons. I need equipment so that Trump cannot get elected. Ruth went on to say the weapons of war get lost all the time on the battlefield, and one missing would not be noticed, according to court records. The sad part is he's fundamentally right. We have no idea where half of the weapons we've shipped to Ukraine are currently. Some of them have been used. Some of them, of course, are still in storage and waiting to be used. But some disappear. It happens literally all of the time. We did this in Afghanistan back at the dawn of the 1980s. In the latter days of the Jimmy Carter administration, and certainly in the first term of Ronald Reagan, we pumped Afghanistan full of weapons, gave them to the Mujahideen because they were fighting the Soviets, of course, and we didn't want them linking up to the Indian Ocean. By the way, the Mujahideen were remarkably successful at crushing the Soviets. It's called the Graveyard of Nations for a reason. We've learned that the hard way as well. Along with other nations. Nobody has ever successfully conquered Afghanistan. And they never will. It's impossible. Just leave them alone. That would be the good advice. What happened is that we sent so many weapons there that if I went to Afghanistan today and didn't get killed in the process for being an infidel, I could buy a crate of hand grenades for like $50. There are millions of them in the goddamn country. There are statues made out of burned out tanks. It's literally all over the place. It's probably, it must be quite something to actually go there. The Jinx Boy, when do you think the first trade deal is done? Probably within a matter of weeks. Jason S., good morning from historic Suncook Village in New Hampshire. I'm concerned about Trump's pivot towards war with Iran. He defiantly stood against prison and attempts on his life. Why would he pivot? I don't believe that we're going to go to war with Iran. I think that it's the same bullshit as you always get. It's posturing. Andy Montmere, Sticks, Jill loves Joe like a glutton loves his lunch. Yes, exactly. She stands by her man. You've got to admire her at least on that surface. Oh yeah, the Trump protests. Saturday's Trump protests weren't perfect. There's a tacit admission there. But they brought a glimmer of hope. Okay. You have a glimmer of hope. The protests were much smaller than anticipated. They were absolutely ideologically meaningless. And of course, it's Moira Donegan who would be writing the article. I've covered probably 5 or 6 articles by this particular individual. She is an extreme leftist and constantly making apologism for them. The fact is that your anti-Trump protests were completely meaningless. They mean absolutely nothing. Not one policy has changed. Trump's still in office. People are basically laughing at you. Some of the times these protests get violent, so, fiery but mostly peaceful. Only 10 cars burned tonight. It was a quiet night here in Chicago. Happens constantly. What happens is that liberal commentators with an academic background, the ones that are doing so-called journalism, they will always support these protests. Doesn't matter if they work. Doesn't matter if they're peaceful or not. Nothing about them matters. All that matters is Orange Man bad. And I've seen these articles penned for years and years, by the way, including when Trump wasn't even in office. He doesn't even need to be in politics in order for people to fucking hate him, because they've been indoctrinated by MSNBC. Back when Joy Reid was on the network, I suppose. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Saxon Violets, it's so delightfully unhinged and surreal, that dude. Fucking rocket launcher. Well, it would have been more effective. We saw what happened when somebody came at Trump with a gun. They managed to graze his ear because he turned his head at exactly the right moment. Rocket launcher, that would be a little bit more difficult to evade, now wouldn't it? But he wasn't capable of obtaining it because, of course, his associate was a Fed. This happens too all the time. JDC 427 Sticks, Jill divorced and left her first husband. All she was standing by is power, not Joe. She is a trailer trash scumbag that just wanted to remain. But that's the thing. Power can be an attractor. The same with money and other things. Here's a rhetorical question, because the answer is quite obvious. Why is it that if a person gets into a relationship because they find the other person attractive, that's considered acceptable. But if they get into a relationship with somebody because they want their power or their money, we consider that scummy. What's the difference? We all have things that we're attracted to. You know? It's like if a dude gets into a relationship with a woman because she's absolutely banging in bed, he's considered lesser than somebody who marries their high school sweetheart because they had puppy love together. I fail to see the difference myself. Just saying. Jill is admirable in the sense that she stands by her man and defends him. She had to defend him from the fucking filth of the rest of DC. I don't even envy her friggin' job, actually. I think any reason you want to get into a relationship is perfectly acceptable. Unless you're doing it in a manipulative way. So you're like, basically, hey, I want to get into a relationship with this crippled person to take advantage of them or something. You're wheelchair bound, so you can't fight back. That would be a problem. BW, you think Trump is trying to get us away from China economically? Hence Ukraine and Greenland for resources. Yes, I do. Andrew Van Halen. Ironically, there's more swastikas at a Trump protest than at Trump rallies. By the way, check out the band October Noir if you like typo negative. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, people are lying if they say that physical attraction is not a basis for a relationship. If you are physically unattracted to a person, isn't that going to cause problems down the road? And other issues? It's going to be a problem. People also tend to want to be with somebody who at least has some form of income or some sort of talent that would compensate for it. For instance, maybe you marry a woman and she doesn't want to work, but she cooks really well, she likes to clean, she's interested in raising the kid or whatever. That's fine. That is a form of work. She's cooking all of your meals. She's basically your fucking chef. Should respect that. American academic faces years in jail after being charged with insulting Thai monarchy. Did you know this? If I say fuck the king here, nothing happens to me. If I say fuck the king in Thailand, I could get in some big fucking shit. Now, this is unevenly applied. I don't support the basic premise, but I wanted to point something out. When you are in a foreign culture, in a foreign country, you need to understand the laws and the civics and the norms of their culture, and you need to respect them. If you disrespect them, it doesn't matter if you've got a goddamn PhD. You're a goddamn idiot. Oh, I'm in Thailand. Here, let me write on my blog about how the Thai king is masturbating or something like that. That's not a good idea because you can end up going to jail. And anyone, by the way, can file these charges, and in Thailand, the military tends to predominate behind the political structure. Like, if I go to Thailand tomorrow, and I would love to, and based on the weather, by the way, and the food, that would be yummy. I would love to have some Thai food right now. Real Thai food, not the Americanized version, by the way. If I'm in Thailand, I'm not going to insult the monarchy. Number one, I can get in trouble for that, and I'd rather not get in trouble. Number two, I am a guest in a foreign nation. I am not a citizen of that country. It's the same as when people come to the United States or they go anywhere else in the world. And some tourists, by the way, are conceived of as more respectful than others. A lot of the asshole tourists are American, but there are two big ones that predominate, in my experience. Number one, people from Quebec. Now, I had a couple of Quebec clankers, for example, and I've got a couple of paintings of me, actually, from them. They were extremely nice. But people from Quebec, here in New England, because of the differential with tipping culture and the differential with language and the quasi-nationalism of many people from Quebec, becomes a bit of a stumbling block. They're considered rude. But number two, the big number two, British tourists going to the Netherlands. You wouldn't believe the number of people who complained about them when I was there. And that's because why would a person from the UK take a 1-hour flight to Amsterdam, fuck prostitutes, do drugs, and binge drink. And so they puke all over the place, and they perv on the prostitutes, or, any random Dutch chick. And multiple people told me that they were not fond of British tourists. Happened all the time. One tall order, I was banned from my cinema due to my Minecraft movie. I got banned from my cinema because of this movie. I have never seen such an inspiring, fulfilling piece of cinema. What? Okay, why did you get... to say this movie is a masterpiece is a severe understatement. Now, as aforementioned, I got banned from my cinema due to this film, as I quite frankly could not handle the overwhelming experience. So I just had to whip out my veiny dick throughout the film. I was absolutely demolishing my meat, climaxing extremely frequently, and finishing countless times. I'm assuming this is a joke. Whatever. Sigil, do they paint you like one of their French Canadian girls? Yeah, people from Quebec are generally conceived of as rude here in New England because of tipping. I understand it's not as much of a thing up there. So that can be conceived of as rude by especially people in restaurant work. The other thing is that typically they speak French, generally, and so other people don't understand what they're saying. And so people assume that they're insulting the people around them. Robert Von Darth. I have a friend in Seattle that lives about a 4th mile from where Seattle Chaz Zone was. That chose to sell her Tesla so it wouldn't get destroyed. Upgraded. Are you drinking Jeremy's coffee? Is that why you are so lame? I'm not lame at all. Neither is his coffee. I just have to support Jam and Bean because they are sponsoring the show, and the Clanker blend is exceptional. It is a 10 out of 10 coffee. So basically, I can take my mushroom pill with Jam and Bean coffee and then use that as well to rinse down some biltong. It's a pretty good life. Yeah, so if you go to a foreign country, here's my advice. Learn about the laws before you go. Because sometimes the laws will not necessarily make sense to you because it's a completely different culture. For example, let's say I go to India, and I would love to, by the way. I can't wait. When you go to India, if you have to do anything government related, it is backlogged and it is not particularly efficient. The police sometimes will do the Soviet style thing and say, oh, well, you've broken the law. And say, what law did I break? You broke the law. All right, here's $100. And then, of course, they leave you alone. This happens. It happens in the United States too, though. Don't kid yourself. Happens all the time in urban areas. One tall order. I was especially aroused when Jack Black said, I am Steve, emptying gallons of my viscous fluid. Overall, 10 out of 10 movie. If I could rate any more, I would. Original storyline, spiritual storyline. Yeah, I know the Minecraft movie is apparently very popular. I haven't seen it yet. You have one of these Minecraft toys, though. Ha ha ha, I got my potion. This is, which one is this? I'm giving it to my niece. This one is, the soda potion. And I think she's collecting them, so, she can have one. That'll be funny. Sigil, despite being in northwest Pennsylvania, I don't think I've ever seen a Canadian tourist. Probably because we're protected by Lake Erie and various rivers and vampires can't cross water. Podunkist. Everyone over the age of 18 I've talked to who saw the Minecraft movie said it was terrible, and even a few younger teens said it sucked. Well, it's going to be more for kids anyway. It's funny, Minecraft is a little bit like Pokemon. It's become intergenerational. It's like Pokemon was a big thing when I was a fucking kid. Kids today still love Pokemon. Same with Minecraft. You know, I was playing that in the, 2010 or something like that. Now you hear all about it from Gen Zers and even people from Gen Alpha. Last weekend, I don't want to see Joe Biden and Jill Biden banging in bed. Ew, I think, I'd go blind. Jack Black ruined Jumanji and Borderlands 2. Was he in the original Jumanji? I know that was filmed in New Hampshire, actually. I've seen the little placard there. I don't know. I don't keep up with movies and TV. One tall order, Ayatollah Khomeini, please fire a Shaheed 131 at Jack Black. Jack Black will be destroyed. Inshallah. Yeah, I guess people are pissed at Jack Black? Huh. He was great in some of the movies back in the day. Sam the First. Why didn't Trump do this huge tariff stuff before? He probably didn't have the idea. He didn't want to have to engage in that activity. I think that he has been talking a lot with Elon Musk and other people that are economically very knowledgeable, and they've said, look, this is something that's going to be necessary to do. Also, first term, he was looking for re-election. He knows there will be economic pain from these tariffs. There already is. Now, he doesn't have to worry about re-election, now does he? I guess there's a new Jumanji or something? The original, it had like Robin Williams and some of these people in it. It was pretty good. I like Jumanji. By the way, we got to talk about de-extinction again. The dire wolf is now de-extinct. That is, that a species for the very first time has been brought back to existence after about 12,000 years or thereabouts. The dire wolf went extinct. It's similar to the timber wolf, but a little bit more broad-faced and larger. And so, yeah, if you release them into the wild, these guys could be highly predatory. So that's might not be the best idea, but who cares? But Colossal, which is a scientific company, is using DNA and gene editing to try to bring back extinct species. Another one that's on the table is the Tasmanian tiger. I support that, by the way. You'll have good genetic material because, the last one died in, the early 1900s, if I remember correctly. I think there are several specimens that are effectively intact, so you'll be able to get the genetic material fairly easily. That would be good. Although I don't know of any other comparable marsupial wolf-like creature that you can use as a surrogate. I'm not sure exactly how you'll make that. You'll need an artificial womb, I'm assuming. Another one's the dodo bird. There are several contemporary species that are similar enough that you could feasibly use them as surrogates, so you wouldn't need the artificial womb for them. They're talking about mammoths and mastodons. Of course, you could use modern-day Asian elephants for that more than anything else. They would learn similar behavior. They would simply, obviously, not resemble the original mammoths that were surrogating them. One thing I would love to see is bring back the saber-toothed tiger. You do have a contemporary relative capable of doing so. It happens to be the Siberian tiger. Similar size dimensions, would be capable, presumptively, of gestating it, and you could go from there. Another one, giant ground sloth, although I'm not sure, again, you'd have to use an artificial womb for that one, I suppose. The cave bear could be brought back by using the Kodiak bear, or the Alaskan brown bear. You'd need fairly large specimens in order to gestate them, but again, you do have the possibility of extracting DNA and doing so. I believe that dinosaurs are never going to be brought back, and here's why. You don't have the genes necessary. You could probably try to reverse engineer from reptiles and birds, I suppose. You might be able to do that. You could definitely create new species, If you know what you're doing and you have the proper editing equipment, you could pretty much create anything. You could create a goddamn cockatrice if you wanted to. That being said, it wouldn't represent the same creature that existed 100 million years ago. It wouldn't be anything like it. And the behavior could be odd. You would need some other creature to imprint upon it in order for it to actually learn how to behave. I'm not sure exactly how you would do that. That's not a problem with a wolf species. It's not a problem with a cave bear. It's not a problem with a dodo, because you've got contemporary examples that are similar enough to those species that the behavior is generally reckoned to be roughly similar. And apparently dodos were very, very tasty. Thinking about if they made like a dodo farm, they could make a lot of money off of that sort of thing. I support gene editing. I support de-extinction. The only thing that I have ever said is that they need to make sure that if they're bringing back a species, it's not just one example of that species. They need to have cohorts. They need to have others. There are 3 dire wolves right now that exist, and apparently they're under 24/7 security surveillance. I'm not surprised, because somebody would try to kill them and eat them. I'm sure of that. Virgil Shadow. Modern movies usually suck compared to the movies of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Agreed. There are a few examples that depart from that, but yeah, for the most part, that's true. Aquafan. Jack Black's best role was not comedic. He was great as King Kong, 2005. I wish he did more serious roles. The comedic ones are cringe. Sigil, dude, they've made like 3 more Jumanji movies. All of them are dog shit about being trapped in a video game, and no, Jack Black was not in the original. I wasn't even aware that there were follow-ups to Jumanji. You can't really improve upon that kind of movie. It's sort of locked in place iconically. Sort of like if they tried to make a second Brotherhood of the Wolf. I wouldn't watch it. I'd be afraid that it would be terrible. King of Biltong. Biltong is a non-MMR vaccine that combats the vegetarian and vegan viruses. It's peer-reviewed and has been tested extensively for centuries. BiltongUSA.com. Use code STICKS for 10% off your Biltong dose. I do definitely encourage people to eat it. I've still got some in the freezer that I've got to eat. I think I've got one of the US Wagyu. I gave Dad the Peri Peri one. He liked that, by the way. And I think I have one more of the Angus right now. Sigil. Colossal is using the justification of wolves are critical to ecosystem for making the giant mutant wolves. They are dangerously irresponsible and clearly intend to unleash these things into the wild. That's okay. King of Biltong. We stream every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We do some light banter while cooking live. Join in the fun by following our channel, rumble.com/c/eatitantons. You should definitely eat at Anton's. I guarantee. Some of that food is delicious. Like those sort of sausage roll things, the bready ones. Oh, those are great. I've still got 1 pack of those left. I ate the others, not without good reason. Sigil. These dire wolves haven't been in nature for 10,000 years, so Colossal's reasoning is total bullshit. Put them in the wild and see if they survive. If they don't, no harm, no foul. It's a failure of an experiment, I suppose, but generally speaking, it's not upending anything. And if they do survive, it's because they deserve to survive. It's called evolution. One tall order. The only gene editing I'm interested in is if science can grow me a 10.2 and I'm talking in feet. You wouldn't be able to walk, though. You'd have to wrap it around your head, I suppose. Kind of hard to get an erection if it was that long. Yeah, I believe in de-extinction. But there are limitations to it. Number one, you have to carefully establish, what is going to be the impact on any ecosystem they're released in. And number two, ethically speaking, it's basically don't just bring back one. because then it's going to be, I mean, imagine that you're the only member of your species. That's just kind of sad. Just saying. Sigil. It's not okay. We should not be releasing macrocellular genetic monstrosities upon the planet for the same reason we shouldn't be releasing microcellular genetic monstrosities like, the virus that cannot be named on a YouTube video. I do not believe that they're going to upend any ecosystems. Wolves already are alive. The dire wolf is simply a version of wolf that happened to have gone extinct. It's really not that different from modern wolves at all, except that it's slightly larger and has a different jaw structure. That doesn't make it more dangerous or more violent. It doesn't make it any more of an encroacher on, herbivores within its general vicinity. So, since wolves already exist, it would seem that would be acceptable. Now, if you're talking about also species that humans hunted to extinction, for example, the woolly mammoth. Effectively, we wiped them out, except in the far northern range, and then, of course, climate changing destroyed the rest of them. Some of them literally frozen into the ground standing upright. It is a little bit mysterious how that happened, by the way. If you're talking about species that mankind destroyed to begin with, the giant ground sloth, the Tasmanian tiger, bringing them back is justified. They didn't die because the environment decided that they shouldn't live. They died because humans decided they shouldn't live. The dodo is another great example. I believe in bringing them back. In other cases, it's probably not as great an idea. And the idea that we're going to bring back velociraptors or something like that, it's not really going to happen. I believe in bringing back the dodo because it sounds delicious. Apparently, it was so delicious we hunted them to extinction. Sigil. Oh, I already read that one. Also, the dire wolf is an extremely cute creature as well. I like wolves. Here in Vermont, it's funny. We used to have timber wolves in this state. And for decades, they've been talking about trying to bring them back, a repository population. And Vermonters have been generally dead set against the concept. Oh my God, they'll nick a cat, they'll nick one of my cows, they'll kill my chickens and stuff like that. And the only response that I can have to them is wolves are generally not violent towards human beings. Unless they're rabid and fucked up, they tend to avoid humans. They've learned their lesson as of the age of muskets, generally speaking. Number two, fences exist, so your cattle and your chickens probably can be protected through other means. And number three, they were here to begin with. What's the problem? Oh yeah, and number four, we've already got a bunch of coyotes in the state. Well, they may be smaller than wolves, but they're actually more aggressive. They're more likely to attack you than a wolf is. So what the hell is the problem? Oh yeah, Orang, the passenger pigeon. That's a good idea, actually. Sigil! They're absolutely going to upend ecosystems. Look at Asian carp, kudzu, water chestnuts, all in the US, and that's all natural. By the way, Colossal admitted they've edited the wolves to thrive in today's climate. So, I see no problem with that. One tall order. Can we genetically modify wolves to attack annoying foreigners and tourists and set it loose in state and national parks? Thanks. You probably could. Yeah, imagine you genetically edit an animal that you're creating to make it more aggressive and violent, to make it insane, basically. Somebody will probably do this at some point. I decided to create bald eagles that relentlessly bombard people with their shit. It's just part of their mating strategy. You know, you could probably do it if you wanted to. V16D Dark King. This is a step for the creation of cat girls. I see no problem. Yeah, you could genetically modify humans. They already do that in China. Mostly it's for eye color and height and things like that. It's very funny. Some people are becoming increasingly anti-science. I find that I myself am not. There are elements of science that I don't agree with, which I can't mention on a YouTube live stream, generally speaking. Certain jabby McJab-jabs, we'll call them. But generally speaking, I'm very much pro-science. I was that nerdy kid when I was in elementary school that had like the microscope and shit, so yeah, you'll excuse me if I have a little bit of a different take on some of these topics. By the way, please send no more super chats. I have to go offline in a couple of minutes. Virgil's Shadow, I've noticed it seems the original idea of a self-governance are flipped on its head. Most modern democracies are more authoritarian than many monarchs were. People seem to love voting for tyranny. True. You're right. One tall order, a honey badger, but we replace its DNA with fentanyl and crack. Yeah, well, good. Well, then the human race expires, probably. I don't recommend doing that. Hmm. Saxon Violet. Science is a process that is never settled, certainly not when it's manipulated by money. Also true. Science in general, the search for knowledge, is no different from the occult when you really think about it. It just comes with more technology and stainless steel and plastic surfaces and things like that. Nuclear engineering. Lonely Goblin. I'd love to see dog-sized tigers. That could work. You could probably do it. Miniaturize the tiger. They might be able to survive more. There'd be less of an incentive for people to hunt them to grind their bones up and then use them in Chinese medicine, maybe. I like real science. I think something either is or it is not, generally speaking. Well, then you search for what is or is not. That's science. Patchy, that's called a puma or a lynx. Pumas are pretty big. Seen one once, actually. Lynxes are pretty cool. It was weird. I was out at another address, and I was out in the morning, sitting on the porch, right, just having some coffee, and all of a sudden I hear this weird, weird sound, and it sounded like a child screaming, and I'm like, should I like get my sword and go over there because it sounds like somebody is literally being murdered. But then I remembered I had actually heard that before, and I looked it up on YouTube, and indeed, it was a lynx. They're fairly rare in the state of Vermont, actually. It was fun. It was, no, no, it was not a fox. It was absolutely, definitely a lynx. I know what foxes sound like. They're a little bit more common. Alan Smithy, I just want actual micro pigs. You could probably make those too. I don't know how pragmatic it is. Certainly not for meat purposes. Fire ant body lice. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, I have a feeling that drunken New Englanders occasionally hear a lynx and think that it's like the abominable snowman or something like that. It's like there was this one case, this was 10 years ago or something. Some dude in Rutland, literally here, reported over towards Castleton that he saw a Yeti, actually, a white Bigfoot. And I'm like, there are no Bigfoot in the state. Bigfoot is relegated to, assuming it exists at all, a couple of areas in the world, and Appalachia is not one of them. Yeah, some animals, it's funny when a rabbit gets like pissed off or something, they scream. But lynxes, Jesus. I mean, at first I thought it was a child being murdered. I was considering rushing off with my weapon. I was considering, oh shit, some 10-year-old is getting strangled by the local Chester the Molester or something like that. It was terrifying. Michael Cricklow. Scientists have said they're not actual direwolves, they're common gray wolves made to look like direwolves. Bringing the dire back is not possible. False. It is possible to sequence the DNA of species from 10,000 years ago. Why are people saying that I heard a fox when I've literally matched up the audio with a recording of a lynx? Well, they are dire wolves, generally. The technology is not there to fully sequence the DNA and literally create an actual original gangsta dire wolf. We do have the genetic material available. It's like it'll be easier with like the Tasmanian tiger because there are several specimens that are only a couple hundred years old. It's a little bit better than 12,000 years, of course. We will be able to bring them back. It's just a matter of surrogacy at that point. We're capable of doing so, however. Anyways, again, please send no more super chats. I'm going to go off in a minute here. Sigil, it's easy to be pro-science when the dire wolf pack isn't in your neighborhood yet. But as my favorite movie line goes, think about the future. The guy that didn't think about the future gets shot. I don't think that it's going to become a problem. Again, because it's going to fill the same carnivorous niche as standard wolves, generally speaking, assuming it's released into, the wild at all. It wouldn't be any different. It's just slightly larger. So who cares? Gabriel, are there lynxes and bobcats in Vermont? I thought lynxes range more west and south. We do, but they're fairly uncommon. Sometimes you also get hybrids. Lynxes and bobcats will mate together, and you get a hybrid between the two of them. Again, fairly rare. There might be 100 lynxes in the whole state of Vermont, maybe 200, something like that. Bobcats, they're a little bit more common. I've never actually seen one. I've never seen a lynx either. I've only heard it, but... Focus, camera going crazy, Sticks. Oh yeah, it is a little bit wonky now, isn't it? There we go. But yeah, I'm going to go offline now. I do not know whether I'll be live with Quartering at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to contact him, see if he wants me aboard. He might not. Again, he's kind of, he really likes to pay the people that are coming on his show. So if he's lost his Rumble contract, he might not be able to do that. But if he goes live, I'm certainly willing. It's just whether he's willing, basically. So I'll get back to everyone. Follow me on Twitter, Stix666official, and you can get the latest updates on whatever the hell I'm doing at any given time if you happen to join me there. So I'll contact Jeremy. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's... I don't know exactly what's happening. Rumble is screwing everyone at the moment, which is really, really sad because Rumble is a great site, and so I hate to see it happen. That's about all. Peace out.